Last month, the government of Uttarakhand it decided to allow the private medical colleges in the state to increase their fees per year from something in the whereabouts about 7 lakh to 25 lakhs, 1 year's fees. And all these students who are studying in those colleges, they got admission in those colleges after clearing NEET, the common entrance exam. And for students, it's not just that they will have to pay it in the current session, current year. Even back fees is being recovered. They've been told to arrange that much money. Now, how this is possible, I don't know, frankly speaking. I don't know how would it be feasible for any one of us sitting here, unless, of course, someone is exceptionally fortunate. Nevertheless, that is how we are producing professionals who seemingly provide universal health care. Anyways, I think after the last meeting we had on Ayushman Bharat's facts and fiction, that meeting did succeed in throwing the pebble in the stagnant water, in the sense that the same day that we were having our meeting here, and previously unannounced press conference was convened by Indu Bhushan, who is the chief executive of this Ayushman Bharat project. And we did have friends that day in the meeting who asked some very helpful questions which helped in enlivening this debate about Ayushman Bharat. Okay. And my point, my very small point here is to sort of clarify certain things which have been put forth by Indu Bhushan in defense of Ayushman Bharat. The very next day there was an editorial piece, it appeared in Indian Express, in which he tried to sort of clear certain misgivings about Ayushman Bharat, which he claimed are there in certain quarters. One quarter he acknowledged Amartya Sen, the other quarter, probably what was done at AIIMS went unacknowledged in that sense, but then it was much too obvious from the way it was written. Now, Indu Bhushan, he has raised, and I believe that is what is the government's take, he has said two primary things, and I'll quote verbatim. He says that there seems to be a perception that all health needs in India relate only to primary care, and there is no need to expand or support for tertiary care. He says that even if we do our best to promote good health, there will still be critical need for tertiary care and secondary care. That the countries with the best preventive systems have strong provisions for secondary and tertiary care. And then he says that Ayushman Bharat walks on two legs. One is the PMJAY, under which hospital admission and treatment will be covered. And the other is health and wellness centers, in which 1.5 lakh health facilities will be upgraded to these kind of centers. Now, I think the whole question has been posed very, very mischievously. I think it can be no sane public persons argue that between primary health care or preventive care and curative care, one needs to exist at the cost of the other. Okay. Or that they are mutually exclusive of each other. That is not the contradiction between primary and curative services, preventive and curative services. The contradiction between preventive and curative services is more in the nature of prevention always being better than cure. That is the contradiction. Not that we either have preventive care or we have curative care. And mind you, why I am saying that the contradiction is prevention being better than cure. First of all,
if you don't fall ill, I mean, a lot of costs, not just in terms of treatment and all, the economic costs, in terms of productivity that the country has to bear, all those things get taken care of. But then the point here is, how do we visualize prevention? In the kind of reductionist view that we've all gotten used to, even preventive care is conceptualized in terms of certain medical technologies which are to be applied at a mass level, at the level of communities and population. So you have vaccination, you have food fortification, you have nutritional supplements. That is what comes to fit into this understanding of preventive care. Whereas that is not what is preventive care. That alone is not preventive. And if you were to see the definition of health as given by WHO, complete state of physical, mental well-being and social well-being. Okay. So when we are talking of preventive care, we have to provide all those conditions of healthful living which will prevent a person from falling ill. That is what many of the countries do in terms of providing preventive care. But then, with all that you've heard about developing markets in healthcare and all those kind of things, then obviously this perception, this conceptualization of prevention has to change. In fact, prevention itself has to be undermined. Because prevention is nothing glamorous. I simply didn't fall sick because I've had good food to eat, I've had good clothes to wear, I've had a roof on my house. So I'm talking in front of you. What's the big deal about it? Big deal comes when a person falls sick. Because it is my sickness, my falling ill, which generates that possibility of using it to make profits from. So there is an obvious moral hazard involved as far as the corporate or for-profit sector is concerned when it comes to comparing preventive healthcare and curative healthcare. And anyone who denies it is being less than dishonest, more than dishonest. I may just mention here some of the conditions which are responsible for majority of the morbidity and mortality that we face. The UNICEF says that about half of deaths in children under 5 years, they are attributable to malnutrition. Unhealthy diets alone are a risk factor for 1 in 5 global deaths. In India, chronic undernutrition also. We have this, we have become diabetes capital of the world. And who's getting diabetes? It's not always the obese, the well-to-do, perhaps. You find even poor Rikshapodas, poor villagers, who are not having enough to eat. They are getting these communicable diseases. And there is now, if you have heard of Barker's hypothesis, which explains as to how intrauterine restriction of nutrition to the babies, to the fetus, that leads to certain developmental anomalies, which ultimately give rise to these kind of non-communicable diseases later in life. Now, according to Global Disease Burden 2016 data, the 10 leading causes of deaths in India. These are heart disease, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, diarrhea, stroke, lower respiratory infections, tuberculosis, neonatal preterm birth, self-harm, road injuries, and other neonatal conditions. Mind you, each one of these causes of death is eminently amiable to preventive measures. Indeed, if anyone thinks of decreasing morbidity and mortality due to cardiac disease, and one thinks that we will have more CTBS centers throughout the country, then I think, there can be nothing more foolhardy than this sort of an approach. So this contradiction between preventive and promotive, it needs to be understood in its proper perspective. Now, as to the question of the second thing which Hindu Bhushan says, is that there is also a perception that Ayushman Bharat is taking away resources from primary care and benefiting big private hospitals. He further states, the assertion that Ayushman Bharat will benefit only a few rich individuals is highly misleading. The concern that some private insurance companies will receive a windfall gain is also misplaced. And then he mentions various provisions under the scheme, how we will prevent this, and all those kind of things. Now, about this contradiction between preventive and curative care. See, it is nothing new, something which has been discovered only of late. And in India, you will find policy documents one after the other who have been raising this issue since time ever. And I'll just read out one quote from National Health Policy 1983, which says, the existing situation has been largely engendered by almost wholesale adoption of health manpower development policies and establishment of curative centers based on Western models, which are inappropriate and irrelevant to the real needs of our people and socio-economic conditions obtaining in the country. Surprisingly, that it's not just people and their health which is at the center of everything. There are vested interests which have had that, Adam Smith's invisible hand of the market. So you have the invisible hand of these vested interests which have been guiding the way policy has been framed. So in the same policy document of 1983 which mentions the above quote which I just read, it is also written that with respect to meeting present and future need for specialist care in the country, to reduce governmental expenditures involved in setting up of such centers, planned efforts should be made to encourage private investments in such fields so that the majority of such centers within the government setup can provide adequate care and treatment to those entitled to free care. The affluent sections being looked after by paying clinics. Mind you, paying clinics, and where are these paying clinics started first? All of them in medical college hospitals. They started in medical college hospitals. In fact, there was a proposal some time back here in the institute itself, and to which the employees then they had a rejoinder that if paying clinics will be there, a share of it should come to us as well, because the faculty happen to be market. And then, so we are not to judge policies by what is said. I think we should judge policies by what is done. And the government, the ruling classes, for their part, have been very frank and upfront about what they've been doing. I'll just quote from National Health Policy 2017. Now it says, government has had an active policy in the past 25 years of building a positive economic climate for healthcare industry. And this is a statement from a health policy document of a developing country like India. Amongst the measures are lower direct taxes, high depreciation in medical equipment, income tax exemptions for 5 years for rural hospitals, custom duty exemptions for imported equipment that are life-saving, income tax exemption for health insurance, and active engagement through publicly financed health insurance, which now covers almost 27% of the population. Further forms of assistance are preferential and subsidized allocation of land that has been acquired under Public Acquisitions Act, and the subsidized education for medical, nursing and other paramedical professionals graduating from government institutions and who constitute a significant proportion of human resources that work for private sector. It is further stated, given that private sector operates within the logic of the market and that they contribute to the economy through their contribution to the growth rate and by national earnings from medical tourism, there need not be any major effort to persuade them to care for the poor, as long as their requirements and perceptions do not influence public policy towards universal health care. Now, such a statement finds place in national health policy of the country. What does it show? That they don't exercise influence, or the kind of influence they exercise over policy making? In Ayushman Bharat, which are the hospitals being impaneled and being banked upon in a major way to care for the poor? They are the private hospitals. Because the whole idea is transfer of public resources through insurance to private sector. And at the same time, to what extent poor will really be taken care of? If we are to have any fair idea of that, I think we should take this statement in the policy document rather seriously. With respect to Ayushman Bharat itself, Mr. Bhushan says this is totally wrong. The public resources are to be shifted to private sector, or that only few rich individuals and companies will gain. Okay. I'm just reading out this report which appeared in New Indian Express on 4th November 2018. And it refers to a draft policy of the Modi government to facilitate opening of private hospitals in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities across the country in order to facilitate the implementation of PMJAY. The report mentions the center has also asked the states to sanction soft loans at agricultural rates for new hospitals. Agricultural rates for new hospitals and providing services such as uninterrupted electricity and at residential rates, not at commercial rates, to these hospitals. The draft policy categorically states, we now need 3 times more growth, but it should be primarily focused on Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Private players, both for-profit and not for-profit, have a key role to play in bridging the supply-demand gap in infrastructure while advancing standards of care. So, the business standard, it gives more details. It refers to a note which was issued by the central government in which Union Health Ministry says that the government will intervene in setting up of private hospitals in order to incentivize it. Some of these interventions would include allotting unencumbered land to private hospitals, providing funding for projects which are deemed unviable by the private sector, and speeding up clearances. So for projects which are deemed unviable by the private sector itself, government will help set up those projects and hand it over to private sector. In order for the government to provide this funding to private hospitals under viability gap funding, the government also says hospitals would now be classified as industry. The government has itself committed that viability gap funding is improving the financial viability and bankability of private hospitals. Viability gap funding will be provided up to 40% of the total cost of the private hospital and will also provide gap funding of up to 50% of tax on capital costs. Essentially, the government is committing to foot the costs for building private hospitals in places where private hospitals themselves find it unviable. Now, I don't know, it is your judgment whether this can be the way to be taking care of our poor. Huge multitudes of them. And they funded this hospital, this Fortis Hospital in Raipur, and they wanted that hospital to treat poor patients. The hospital refused. And since Raipur didn't seem to be a place where there were enough number of people having purchasing power to kind of ensure the profits, that hospital which had been funded by the government, given over to private sector, stands closed. It was shut down. So, see, it's good that we are here, we are discussing these issues, but the point is that unless the seriousness of this challenge, unless the immense danger that it lends our people to sinks in deep in our heart and minds, it will be very difficult for us to be able to fight for any kind of an argument. I congratulate you for having initiated this process after a long gap. But then, this process has to gain in strength to strength. It has to acquire forms which are demonstrable, which are of practical utility in terms of educating our people about these dangers. Because those who will be at the receiving end of things, they do not have the luxury to be able to attend such meetings, to be able to have access to those sources which will inform them of what all plans are being made to sabotage their lives. It becomes in that case entirely our responsibility that we as public health physicians, we as people who stand as doctors, as health professionals, or as public health workers who stand for the people of India, doctors, masters of India, we take this message to them. We convey it. There can be many ways of doing it. I mean, AIIMS has had a very long tradition of taking up these issues in various ways and all. I think, I just hope people will bring those traditions back to this campus. These words. Thank you very much.